Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Thursday, July 31st. It's Alissa Coram here. And the Nasdaq and S&P 500 faded today, reversing lower after a strong start, despite some positive earnings reports. We've got a lot to go over today, and joining me now to break down all the action is my colleague, Ken Shreve. Ken, what's going on?
Hey, we had a nice open for the Nasdaq early in the session because investors cheered these nice earnings reports from Meta Platforms and Microsoft. But boy, did those gains fade pretty badly. Let's talk three stocks. Let's talk about Meta Platforms, META, nice earnings report and a bullish gap up. And then a couple of names we haven't talked about in a little while. Ouster, OUST. This is a maker of LiDAR sensors for autonomous driving. And then also Shark Ninja, consumer products firm. See a lot of their stuff at Costco. But and I have a toaster oven myself
Yeah.
from Shark Ninja. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a lot of good stuff. We'll check out those charts. We'll also check in on Amazon, Apple, and others with their earnings out after the closing bell. But first, let's take a closer look at the major indexes because, Ken, we need to give some added context here for the overall market and conditions that we are currently seeing. We've been in this power trend. So, taking a step back, we've been in this powerful uptrend of a market. We did see a downside reversal in Tuesday's session, but further weakness didn't really result from that. Today, a little bit more extreme in terms of the trading range and the downside reversal off highs. Maybe now is the time we finally get some sort of pullback, but boy, has it been a very strong market here, Ken.
Yeah, I think today's downside reversal I think raises the likelihood of a test of the 21-day line here, which is the green line that you're seeing on the Nasdaq composite chart. We've seen this has been kind of a tendency. It's been happening over the past 10, 12 trading sessions. We've had four times where the index has opened strongly and then given back gains into the close. It happened there. Yeah, you got it. You got it right there. So this is telling me that the markets, could be ready to come in here. We're not dealing with a really heavy distribution day count, but it looks like we're going to get a distribution day on the S&P 500. So yeah, this is a market that is just starting to look a little frothy to me as well. The amount of stocks that we're seeing up 15, 20, 25, 30% in one day. We had the Figma IPO today, and listen, Figma's a great company with pretty outstanding revenue growth, but it was going to price in the high 20s. They raised the range to the low 30s. It priced last night at 33, and it closed at 117.59. So pretty incredible debut, but maybe some frothiness in this name as well.
Yeah. And then back to the NASDAQ, a couple of other technical things to point out here. We've been talking about getting short term extended, right? So if you
Yep.
even just have a little mini trend line over the last couple of weeks of action, I think if we would have closed at the highs today, you really would have started to see, like you said, that acceleration and extension on the index level. So could today be the beginning of a digestion over a historically seasonally weak period? Perhaps, but it could also be the pause that refreshes Ken in this
Absolutely.
strong market uptrend.
I mean, we've been just kind of on leaderboard, following the market, and if we have individual stocks that are giving us sell signals, we're trimming or either taking profits. So I think that's a reasonable strategy for a typical growth investor to pursue right now. Again, this was a pretty violent downside reversal today. Yes, support is still holding at the 10-day moving average, and we did have a lot of really solid earnings reports today, and it's been a great earnings season. Didn't talk about the inflation data that we had
Yeah.
before the open today. Really wasn't a market mover at the beginning at all. Remember, the Nasdaq was up more than 1% early in the
Mhm.
session. The core year over year PCE index was just a little bit hotter than expected at 2.8%. The market was expecting 0.7. But I mentioned on yesterday's show that there are some economists that think this PCE, could start creeping towards 3%, and it started to do that a little bit today in the latest monthly reading. The Fed obviously still a little bit concerned. I think people were hoping that the Fed would be maybe a little dovish after yesterday's meeting, but I think the perception was that Fed Chairman Powell is really not in a rush to cut rates. And again, as discussed yesterday, that September meeting, I think the odds for a rate cut are down around 45% at this point. They were about 65%.
Yeah. So it seems like, in terms of how the market reaction continues to play out here with all of the earnings, Fed economic news, we'll just have to see what kind of digestion we potentially get from here. But those support levels that you pointed out, Ken, I think are critical to the power trend and investors potentially needing to take action in their portfolios. But the silver lining here is that if we do get a pause, I feel like there are so many stocks, to your point, that we've been talking about that have uh, been hard to get positioned in because they've made such big moves. So if we can get some new, fresh setups, that may not be a bad thing.
Exactly, exactly, and I like that little that channel line that you drew earlier. I mean, again, just looking at the market technicals here, this is bumping right up against that. It's a short channel line, but it is connecting three separate highs here. So I think it's telling that the Nasdaq is, if it starts to break out over this channel line as it tried to do today, sometimes that can be a sign, again, that the market could be ready to take a breather here. So if it does, I think it certainly brings the possibility of a test of the 21-day line into play. That has been a support level. Several times during this uptrend, yeah. So we will see.
Mhm.
But we're also going to just continue to respect a lot of good earnings reports
Yeah.
coming out. There were a lot of good ones today, some bad ones as well. But in the end, S&P 500 here is a little bit below the 10-day moving average. So violent reversal for this index as well.
Yeah, the S&P finishing down about 0.4%, while the Nasdaq was fractionally lower on the day. Meanwhile, the Dow down about 0.75%, closing below the 21-day, Ken.
Yeah, looks like we're going to get a distribution day on the S&P 500. Looks like we did get higher volume on both exchanges, so we'll probably add a distribution day to the S&P 500's count. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, not as relevant an
Right.
index, compared to the Nasdaq Composite and S&P 500, which we like to follow the most. But here, you have a key test coming up here, right at that 44,000 level, a break below that 21-day line. So I think the line in the sand right now for the Dow is 44,000. That's
Mhm.
a very real round number. It could try to hold support there. If support gives way, then hey, maybe there's going to be a trip down to the 50-day line. But Dow looks a little more vulnerable at this point than the Nasdaq and the S&P 500.
Same with the Russell 2000. Here's IWM tracking the Russell 2000 down 1% on the day, also sliding below the 21-day line.
It was interesting, Ali, in pre-market trading today. It was, we saw the Nasdaq Composite outperforming, and we saw the S&P 500 not far behind, up about 0.9%. The Dow was lagging badly, and small caps were actually down. Before the opening bell, when the Nasdaq was up 1.3% or whatever it was. So the Dow and Russell 2000 have really been kind of moving in lockstep, which is interesting. Blue chips, small caps lagging, and Nasdaq, S&P 500 outperforming. So the Russell really
Mhm.
looks very similar to the Dow at this point, below the
Yeah.
below the 21-day line, and looks like it's coming up to a key test here. That 200-day and 50-day almost converged.
Yes. Okay. One more ETF we want to check in on before we check out some stocks, and that is SMH, the chip sector ETF, which has been outperforming very nicely since those April lows. Today, underperforming in a notable way, off by 2.5%, Ken.
Yeah, underperformed in a notable way, but held support here again at the 21-day line. So this was weighed down by an earnings sell-off for ARM. That one had a pretty tough day, gap below the 50-day moving average. And then it was also Lam Research LRCX, which had a much better close than ARM
Mhm.
did, but Lam Research down more than 4%, but held support at the 50-day line here. So bad day for chip stocks overall, but again, technical weakness in SMH, not yet. It's still holding support right where it should.
It exactly is. Okay, we'll have to see what Friday's session brings. We know by the end of the week how the charts close for the week, how these stocks close for the week is going to be key. So we've got some tests. Will we pass or will we start to see some deterioration? Only time will tell.
I
But let's,
know we
yeah,
do
go
have
ahead.
to just also we got this big jobs report tomorrow morning
That could
too at
be a
8:30
factor.
a.m. Eastern time, and that is we'll see how the market reacts to it. I honestly don't know if the market is going to like a strong jobs report, if it's going to like a weak jobs report. Hard to figure that out with all the volatility, but the market will react probably one way or the other. So one more a big economic report to digest before the end of the week.
Yes, that could be very key. Okay, let's take a look at one key earnings mover from today's session, and that is Meta Platforms, up 11.3% on the day, gapping up to a high. An impressive report here, Ken. Some acceleration on both the top and bottom lines, a favorable outlook as well. Also, I believe they raised their capital expenditure outlook here. Full disclosure, I did take a little position on this strength. What are you seeing with the earnings reaction here, Ken?
Well, there were a lot of stocks that gapped up that weren't able to hold these gains, but I think
Yeah,
Meta was
Microsoft,
pretty.
a good example.
Yeah, Microsoft was a
Mhm.
good example, but I think Meta was pretty impressive today, finishing with an 11% gain. You can see the stock just barely edging lower in the after hours, but yeah, this was a great earnings report. You mentioned that acceleration in revenue. Anytime you're a top-rated growth stock that is selling at maybe a premium multiple, and Meta isn't crazy at 25 times trailing earnings and 28 times forward. But if you're producing accelerating revenue growth, that's normally a good sign. And I think the market rewarded Meta for that 22% increase in revenue. From a technical perspective, it's a beautiful breakout. This is a classic handle that formed after the stock pulled back to its 10-week moving average. So I think if you missed, for those that didn't buy Meta today and are still wanting to own the stock. Good one to keep on the watch list because we always talk about when a stock gaps up, it can hold those gains, move sideways, trade tightly. But the more that Meta can just kind of hold these gains and just show bullish tight price action, that could usher in a new breakout to new highs. So excellent earnings report. Mark Zuckerberg obviously is sharp. The really positive response to earnings 3 months ago when they reported. So they've been knocking the cover off the ball for quite a few quarters in a row now. So I think it's a good one to watch. I don't own it personally, but I'll continue to watch and see how it trades from here. I suspect unless the market really starts to come in, I suspect this is probably going to hold pretty well.
Yeah, that's what we'll want to watch for. Okay, next on our list, OUST in the auto trucking equipment group that you mentioned, the LiDAR technology. Last quarter, we saw a nice move on earnings. Let's see what the percent gain was that day. Up 23% last quarter. This was an early May report. We have the company's next earnings report coming up in about a week. Talk us through the setup.
Well, if you go to the weekly chart here, first of all, fundamentals are really outstanding at Ouster. It's not a big company; it's a small cap stock. You can see the market cap just over 1.25 billion. But I do like the revenue growth here, and like the fact that this stock is finally coming down and coming close to a test of its 10-week moving average. So we'll keep an eye out on this one for a possible option trade next week. It's a $23 stock, so you're not going to be talking about huge premiums that you're going to pay. But a company that again, the lidar sensors that create sort of like these 3D images really help autonomous. Cars perform quite well. So, but they're not only in a lot of other commercial markets besides autonomous driving and robotics as well. So we'll see if this, it's been a big move for the stock after that breakout from a cut base, but finally looks now like it could be ready to come down and touch that 10-week moving average. And if it's a strong stock and the market can hold itself together, this one, could find support. So probably again take a look at a call option trade next week because it's technically still holding quite well.
Great. Yeah. If you want some earnings option ideas, Ken, you do a great job with the earnings preview column. Quick little tease about what that entails each week.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is like next week. There's hundreds of companies reporting earnings. We're really in the thick of earnings season. So I go through all these dozens and dozens and dozens of companies and try to find the ones that are setting up the most bullishly, and then we just kind of go through and we narrow down a really big earnings landscape to just a few stocks that we think are acting well. So we'll talk about Ouster. Probably mention Palantir, obviously reporting next week. AMD. So these are names that'll get some attention in the earnings preview that I'm going to be
Great.
finishing up soon. So, but Ouster looks good here. Not a widely known name, but
Mhm.
it's got the earnings, it's got the revenue, and still showing a lot of strength in this market.
Yes. Okay, let's also go to Shark Ninja right at that 120 level. That's a high area for the stock that it peaked back in February. It's right there again with a week before earnings.
Yes, hard not to find stocks that are, set to report earnings here, but Shark Ninja is another interesting name because it's near the top of this base, getting some early resistance near the 120 level, but this looks to me like a little handle could be forming here. So another one that could make sense as a call option trade. I think the handle is in the process of forming right now. It hasn't been a lot of volume as the stock has come in over the past 4 days. Revenue growth did slow quite a bit in the first quarter numbers when they reported earnings, but the stock still gapped up, and growth has started to slow, but still a company with pretty good fund ownership here, and still it looks like it could be in the early stages of a move here. It hasn't been trading for all that long.
Mhm.
So the fact that it's up near this 120.23 level and backing off highs could be setting the stage for more upside. We'll keep an eye on this earnings report next week as well.
Okay, let's check out some of the earnings reactions out after the closing bell. Some big ones. So let's go to Amazon. It looks like shares are down a little less than 4%. The early reaction here, I believe they did have a profit beat, but it's the outlook, it seems like, Ken, that investors are focusing on right now. And as a reminder, especially for those who are our Spotify listeners, we'll paint the picture for the chart for you here. This is a stock that has had a really nice move since the April lows. So it's been rallying into this report. But what do you make of the reaction, Ken?
Well, this has actually been one thing I've been really impressed about because I was a little bit concerned as we headed into earnings. Well, what about this huge rally that the market has made, and what about these stocks that have been rallying over the past 3 to 4 weeks? Pricing in a lot of good news ahead of their earnings
Yeah.
reports. And what have we seen? We've seen extended stocks get even more extended. And so
Hmm.
they've they've gone higher even after a strong pre-earnings move. So not surprised to see some stocks sell the news here. Haven't obviously had a chance to look at Amazon's report yet, but it looks like this is down 3.5%. Uh, but the explosive move it's made over that 218.40 entry, it's probably ready to pause and digest gains here. So we'll see
Mhm.
if it can hold the 10-day line. Possible we could see a test of the 21-day line, but even if it does that, the uptrend would still be intact here. So not surprising to see Amazon sell the news, but it's still early, and we'll see what tomorrow brings.
Yes. Okay, a couple more to get your thoughts on. Let's go to Reddit. This one actually was moving in the regular session today, which was a 7.5% gain. And look at this, Ken. It's now up another 12% after hours.
Yep, yep. So this is again just an explosive earnings mover, and the top line growth has been there for a while with Reddit. You see in the first quarter the revenues were up 61%, expected to rise 51%. I assume there's going to be a pretty nice revenue beat there, but a stock that was still kind of deep inside of a base here. This was quite a pullback
Yeah.
when Reddit corrected from 230 down to below or right around 80
80.
dollars a
Mhm.
share. So I think that's a 60, 55, 60 plus percent correction, but rallied back and is looks like it's going to be able to break out from deep inside this base, but looks like fundamentals are still very much intact here, uh, judging by the
Mhm.
stock's uh, aftermarket reaction here.
Yeah, so this will definitely be one that we cover on IBD Live in the morning as well. Now let's go to KLAC. You mentioned some other chip reports that came out today, including Lam Research. So in the same group, KLA moving down in sympathy during the regular session by about 5%. Earnings out tonight. So far, shares down, I'm seeing about 2%.
2%, and yeah, you can see KLA did make a stand at the 50-day moving average today, dragged down by the sell-off for LRCX today. But yeah, so it seems like a fairly muted response so far to earnings. Great. Acceleration in earnings and revenue here too. So we'll see if that 50-day test pans out. Stocks under just a little bit of pressure though. It looks like.
Okay. And Cloudflare, ticker NET, earnings are out. Here's another one, Ken, more than doubling off of its lows. It did pause for a bit a couple weeks ago, recently punched above the 200 price level. And now I'm seeing shares up 6.5% after the bell.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of support consistently at the 21-day line, and it's just kind of biding time, consolidating below the 200 level. So again, not surprising. The top line growth has been there for Cloudflare for some time now. So stock up nicely in the aftermarket. Listen, we had two great earnings reports today from Meta and Microsoft. Didn't Nasdaq wasn't able to hold that gain, but it looks like we've got some more good earnings reports to work with. So I think tomorrow, end of the week jobs report should be an interesting day.
Yeah. And Cloudflare in the regular session today up 3.4%. So this definitely bucked the weakness today. And you can see that in the relative strength line. This company in the enterprise software industry group. And let's see if I timed it right, Ken, for Apple earnings. I know that that report comes out roughly a half hour
That's right.
after the close. So I think we hit it just right here, timed it
L-
just right.
I love it.
Now seeing the stock liquid here bouncing around on the upside between 2 to 3%. This initial reaction. Apple itself, the stock has been a laggard, but we do know it has a heavy index weighting. So a positive response at the moment with the hot off the press, the numbers just coming in.
Yeah, it's been obviously a laggard relative strength rating of 23, living below the 200-day line. So Apple, I mean, has become it still gets that big index weighting, but boy, it's just been on a downtrend and has not been able to shake these fundamental concerns because people, have legitimate questions about where the next growth phase for Apple
Right.
is going to come from. Obviously, it's a Dow stock, so it's not going to be, growing at 20 and 30%, but the market still wants to know that Apple's going to continue to innovate,
Mhm.
and it's just got a lot of haziness right now in terms of where that growth is going to come from. So we'll see how the stock getting a little bit of lift in after hours. If it were able to reclaim that 40-week moving average that we're looking at right now on the weekly chart, or move above the 200-day line, that would really improve the stock's technical picture. But if we go
Mm.
back to the daily chart, and if Apple does strengthen, wouldn't be surprised to see that 200-day be an initial resistance level. So
Yeah.
still looks very challenged to me from a technical perspective, but getting a little bit of lift in after
Mhm.
hours.
Definitely agree. And I think investors are going to be paying very close attention on the conference call to what management says about, okay, what is the plan for AI? Because you have companies like Meta aggressively spending, investing, poaching Apple employees for its AI initiatives. So I think that that's going to be watched very and listened to very closely on the conference call, and I can just already see analysts are going to be commenting on that in the coming day as this report gets digested. So we'll have to see what they say on the call.
Probably a little bit behind the curve in terms of AI. That's a very good point. So maybe the market could get some clarity whether they're going to, pursue a big acquisition or what. But when you look at the AI race and
Yeah.
the progress that names like Amazon and Meta platforms and others have made, this Apple right now has been left in the dust. So maybe we'll get some additional
Yeah.
color. I think longs would like to see that.
No doubt. And one more thing to say, and that is that overnight action does not always translate to the following regular session. We see upside reversals, downside reversals, and everything in between. So that's why it's important to keep tabs on investors.com, our IBD live show, and all of our content across Investors Business Daily, because we keep you updated on all the key earnings moves and other news you need to know. Isn't that right, Ken?
Absolutely. We'll have a lot of timely coverage. Ed and Ben, a lot of our news editors do a great job getting that information out there quickly.
Definitely. So check it out, and we will see everyone there. All right, that is it from us for today, but we will be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live, investors.com/IBD Live for all the details. My thanks to Ken, and we will also see you right back here tomorrow after the close, everyone.